The nuke. One of the most terrifying, yet simultaneously fascinating weapons mankind has, and likely will, ever make.
This is the Beard of Doom rocket?
A single one could wipe an entire population off the face of the Earth, leaving only a crater in its place. The detonation of a nuclear bomb can be seen, heard, and even felt miles upon miles away from the center of the explosion. But could the same be said if a nuke was to be detonated on the moon? Well, this same question was posed by the United States Air Force all the way back in 1958, as they began to develop plans for the mysterious Project A119. By 1958, the space race had officially started, and the USSR had taken an early lead over the US. On the 4th of October 1957, the Soviets launched Sputnik 1, the first ever man-made satellite, into a low Earth orbit. This sent the US into a frenzy. Losing the space race would be a huge hit, and it would serve as a clear sign that the USSR would likely win the Cold War. At this point, it would still be 4 years until President John F. Kennedy would announce the plans for the US to send a manned mission to the moon, and it would be another 11 years until Apollo 11 actually landed on the moon's surface. It was clear that US citizens needed a confidence boost, something to ramp up their patriotism, and the US Air Force decided that they should detonate a nuke? Yes, you heard me right. The US were planning to send a nuclear missile to the moon and have it detonate on the moon's surface, creating a flash of light that would be visible to any spectators that were watching from Earth. The government hoped that this fireworks-esque display would boost the morale of US citizens and would serve as a huge middle finger to the USSR. But as the world would later find out, the USSR were also planning a similar project, where they would detonate a hydrogen bomb on the moon. The Americans, of course, did not know this at the time, as these reports were only released in 2010, but it makes the whole situation seem even more tense when looking back in retrospect. After getting the go-ahead from the White House, the Air Force quickly got to work on Project A119. A 10-member team, led by physicist Leonard Reifel, was assembled at the Illinois Institute of Technology in Chicago to study the potential visibility of the explosion, benefits to science, and implications for the lunar surface. One of the members of this team was a young Carl Sagan, one of the most well-regarded and talented astronomers of our time, who was just a student at the time. It was actually Carl Sagan who would accidentally leak details about the project and make it well known to the public. He mentioned the project in his application to the University of Berkeley in 1959, which was discovered by writer Kay Davidson while he was researching the life of Carl Sagan for a biography. After initially thinking a hydrogen bomb would do the trick, the team eventually decided that a W-25 warhead, a small, lightweight warhead with a relatively low 1.7 kiloton yield, should be used. By contrast, the little boy bomb dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima in 1945 had a yield of 13 to 18 kilotons. Now, the explosion itself wouldn't be seen from Earth, as the bomb was going to be detonated on the dark side of the moon, but the dust cloud resulting from the explosion would be lit by the sun and therefore visible from Earth. Unfortunately, or I guess fortunately, the project was scrapped before any machinery could be constructed. The government were worried about the backlash and negative public reaction they might get if the project were to go ahead. Another factor, put forward by Leonard Reifel, was the possible implications of the nuclear fallout for future lunar research projects and colonization. After Project A119 was canceled, no other similar plans were ever put forward. The signing of the Partial Nuclear Test Ban Treaty in 1963 and the Outer Space Treaty in 1967 prevented future exploration of the concept of detonating a nuclear device on the moon. And by this point, the reasons for such a project to exist didn't matter. The US were motivated once again, and morale among the American people was higher than ever. The only other somewhat similar project that was proposed was a plan to detonate a small nuclear device on the moon in order to help research its geologic makeup. The idea was dismissed, as it would interfere with plans to measure the moon's natural background radiation. Well, that was the story of the US's insane plan to detonate a nuke on the moon.